Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Redman, astrological intuitive, and today we are going to be talking about what 2026 has in store for us all astrologically. And 2026 is really standing out to be a turning point year in astrology. It's one of those years where multiple long-term planetary cycles overlap, shift signs, and activate new themes all at once. When that happens, we don't just feel short-term changes, we feel the direction of the future changing. And I know you've been feeling that, and it really takes hold this year. And what I want to do today is walk you through the major astrological events, explain what they mean in real world terms, help you understand how these energies are shaping both the collective world and our personal lives. This isn't about prediction, it's about understanding cycles so you can move through them with awareness. That's what astrology is all about, right? Now, let's start it out with I think one of the biggest things that we left in 2024 and we're moving into we moved into in 2025, but it really, really takes root now. And it's a 250-year cycle of Pluto leaving uh, Capricorn and then moving into Aquarius. So it's the end of one world and the start of another, pretty much. So before we talk about Pluto moving into Aquarius, we have to understand what we've come through. And from 2008 to 2024, Pluto traveled through the sign of Capricorn. So Capricorn deals with government, corporations, financial systems, institutions, authority structures, and the foundations that we build our lives on. And Pluto's job is to expose, dismantle, and transform whatever it touches. So over the past 15 plus years, Pluto going through Capricorn has torn down outdated political systems, it's exposed corruption in governments and corporations, collapsed financial structures that were never sustainable to begin with, forced people to confront unstable foundations in their own lives, careers, marriages, identities, other belief systems. Nothing weak survived this transit. And now Pluto is moving into Aquarius, where it will stay until 2043. Now, Aquarius rules the collective, the people, technology, innovation, social systems, collective power. And Pluto in Aquarius doesn't rebuild the old world, it reinvents the systems beneath our feet. So, this is the beginning of new ways of organizing society, decentralizing the power of technology, restructuring people, reclaiming authority from systems that no longer represent them. This isn't chaos. And I know a lot of people think that. This is collective reinvention. And this is a big shift in change. So, for much of the last decade, we've been under heavy water sign influence, especially Neptune and Pisces, which began in 2011. On the higher level, Neptune and Pisces brought compassion, spiritual sensitivity, empathy, awareness, collective suffering. But we also need to talk about the shadow side. Now, Neptune and Pisces can also create confusion, disillusionment, emotional overwhelm, lack of clarity, foggy thinking, susceptibility to manipulation and propaganda. Now, when Neptune is strong, boundaries dissolve. And when boundaries dissolve too much, truth becomes hard to distinguish from illusion. And so many people have felt lost, gaslit, emotionally exhausted, unsure of who to trust, what to trust. And 2026 marks the shift out of that fog. We move from water into fire. We're moving into a lot of Leo energy this year, and from feeling to doing, from confusion into initiation. Now, as Neptune enters Aries, clarity through action happens. In January, Neptune settles into Aries. The last time Neptune was there was 1861 to 1875 during the Civil War. And this is interesting because we're also going through that 250-year reboot of Pluto moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, which coincides with the time of the American Revolution. This is when America got its footing, and then here we have Neptune revisiting where it was at the time of the Civil War when we really were solidifying what America meant. And that era was marked by ideological battles, identity conflicts, fighting over belief systems, a redefining what the nation stood for. And Neptune in Aries doesn't allow passive belief. It asks, what do you believe strongly enough to act on it? And this transit brings intuition paired with courage, vision that demands movement, and the end of spiritual bypassing, clarity through lived experience. Faith without action doesn't survive this era, and there's a lot of redefining of what spirituality means and how it plays a role in your life. Saturn in Aries is like a reality check, leadership and truth, and Saturn re-entering Aries in February of this year. The last time this happened was when Saturn's that planet that stabilizes things. It wants to restructure things. And the last time that Saturn went and restarted the wheel of astrology, Aries starts the beginning of the wheel, right? And so the last time that we had this stabilizing force reinventing everything, well, not everything, but starting this was 1996 to 1999. And during that time frame, we had rising independence, new leadership models, entrepreneurial expansion. Think about the dot-com thing, major technological momentum, early internet boom. Saturn is about discipline, responsibility, accountability, and truth. And here's an important piece. Over the past few years, Saturn has been moving through Pisces alongside Neptune, which that did not happen in the 90s. This has helped many people shake off illusion, see through mass gaslighting, recognize where narratives did not match reality, and Saturn brings stone cold truth. It doesn't care what we wish was true, only what is true. And in Aries, Saturn says, now that you can see clearly what are you going to be doing about it? That's pretty much what it's asking. What do you want to do? Not fighting with no reason, but making some concrete steps to making this new world that Pluto blew up, and now we're stepping into what does the new world look like. It's not about fighting, it's about creating and bringing your own personal energy to it. This is a leadership forged through clarity, not confusion or conflict. Now, Saturn and Neptune align on February 20th, and this happens once every 30 years. And this is going to be at a rare conjunction point of 0 degrees. The last time Saturn and Neptune aligned together, but it wasn't in Aries, was in 1989. And that was during the fall of the Soviet Union, a collapse of the ideological structure that can no longer hold reality. This conjunction marks the end of false narratives. This is where the collapse of unsustainable belief systems happens, the birth of new frameworks rooted in truth. Dreams must now meet reality, and reality must now make room for meaning. So this is a big thing. This is a huge cycle. We're reinventing and we're coming at it with clearer eyes. The thing that happens, I think, especially with Pluto moving into Aquarius and people saying, oh, the last time that happened was during the Revolutionary War. We're going to have a Revolutionary War. The last time Neptune went through Aries, it was doing this during the Civil War. We're going to have Civil War. That's not true. I think it was Mark Twain that said, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And the thing is, there's a lot of other astrological influences that are at play now that are saying that this is going to repeat to where we have civil war or complete anarchy and upheaval. That's not the case. We look at things differently now, and astrologically, we are in a different time to build as a collective and create a United States that is actually united and for the people, right? Not for bureaucracy and all these other special interests. There's a lot to be said. Now, I'm not in it to be political here today, but I'm just saying we are getting to a point where our forefathers really wanted us to be and what the country was meant to be built on. And now we have all the astrological alignments to really, truly make it happen. We just got to work together, not work against one another. Now, another big thing is Uranus finishing up Taurus and entering into Gemini. Now, before Uranus goes into Gemini June 30th, it completes its long transit through Taurus, which began in 2018, and then it wraps up. Now, Uranus brings a lot of disruption, freedom, liberation, unpredictability, and rapid change. And as it's been going through, I think y'all can relate to what has happened here. Taurus deals with money, resources, values, the economy, the financial system, the physical body, the medical field. Now, the last time it had gone through was during the Great Depression. Look at everything that shifted and changed in that time frame in terms of the economy. Look at the medical advances that happened and the technological advances that happened after we left that time frame. Here we are again. And look at what happened when Uranus finally settled into Taurus in March of 2020. We went through the pandemic. And even though that was a terrible time frame, yes, obviously, look at the advancements that happened as a result. Now, during Uranus and Taurus, we've seen a lot of radical changes in finance. We've seen digital currencies and new monetary systems taking hold, like cryptocurrency, disruption in the healthcare system, the supply chain instability, unpredictable weather patterns, because that's what Taurus deals with as well. And when we think of that transit and the aftermath of the Great Depression, that period definitely included major financial restructuring, the abandonment of the gold standard in 1933, a complete rethinking of the economic system. So yes, Uranus and Taurus historically correlates with major financial resets. Now Uranus moves into Gemini, shifting disruption into communication, media, education, information systems, technology, and AI. How we think, learn, speak, share information is about to change rapidly. And that's okay, right? It's meant to. We're ushering in a new era on a lot of different levels. And that can bring a lot of uncertainty, which can bring a lot of fear. And we just have to trust in the process. And we have to believe in ourselves and what we can bring in this time frame. And that's where another great shift is coming with the Leo Aquarius eclipses that are coming. That's really shining a light on the collective, that's Aquarius, but also what we can bring our own unique light to in the process of this new beginning. And that's what Leo is all about. Eclipses bring new beginnings. And we haven't had these Leo Aquarian eclipses for 10 years. So the eclipses of 2026 activate that Leo Aquarius axis. Last occurred 2016 to 2017. And look back at that time frame in your life and ask yourself, where were you dimming your own light? Where were you craving authenticity? Where were you ready to be seen, but you were being held back? And these Leo eclipses ask us to shine. Aquarius eclipses ask us how that light serves the collective. And this cycle is about owning who you are without apology and sharing it in a meaningful way. Now, the eclipses this year are let's see here. So we have the Leo eclipse new moon. I'm going to go in order though. I have this all over the place. That's what happens when you make yourself notes, right? So we have the first one of the year that is February 17th. That is the new moon eclipse in Aquarius. Then we have the March 3rd full moon eclipse that's in Virgo. That's wrapping up these Virgo Pisces eclipse cycles that we've been dealing with over the past couple of years, which have really been asking us, how can we make our dreams, Pisces, into practical reality? That's Virgo. So there's been a lot of this push and pull over the past couple of years, making us recognize how our thoughts create our reality. Then we have the August 12th, new moon Leo solar eclipse that's going to be happening. And then we have the last of them, August 28th, and that's the Pisces one that really wraps up that Pisces Virgo eclipse cycle. Now, another thing too that we have this year that's pretty important is the Mercury retrogrades happening in water signs. Now, Mercury retrogrades 3 to 4 times a year, depending on, where everything lands. But a lot of times they're in different types of signs. So we get a mix of everything. But this year, all of these retrogrades happen in water signs. So Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. This brings opportunities for emotional reflection, healing old wounds, revisiting relationship patterns, listening to our intuition, listening to the wisdom of our emotions, and slowing down instead of forcing answers to come. Retrogrades are not setbacks, they're course corrections. So this is definitely a time frame where I know Mercury retrograde gets a bad rap. People are always saying like, "Oh, you can't do this and you can't go there." You just got to be careful, right? If you're signing contracts, just kind of look at it and see what that means exactly. Make sure all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted before you sign on the bottom line. Because what will happen if you don't, that'll come back to bite you later when Mercury goes direct. But it doesn't mean that you can't do these things. Ancient cultures actually looked at the Mercury, any of the planetary retrogrades, as a blessing because it has us looking to the past for how we can change how we do things in the future. And that's going to be really vital in a lot of ways, like we mentioned earlier with Pluto moving into Aquarius and Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries. These are major planetary influences that are going to be impacting us. And there's a lot of once in 30-year cycles, once in 80-year cycles of these slower planets connecting with one another, giving us the opportunity to make real dramatic changes on a global scale all the way down to a personal scale. And we'll be feeling them throughout the year. Now, Mercury retrograde has us looking in these water signs to trusting what our intuition is telling us, not necessarily what the conscious mind is pushing out to us. We also have Venus retrograding at the end of the year as well. And that doesn't happen every year like the Mercury retrogrades do. Now, when Venus retrogrades, it's a little bit different because Venus deals with uh, love and money and harmony and balance in our lives. And so, as it retrogrades at the end of the year, there's going to be a lot of looking back to the past for how we've operated in relationships. And there may be a lot that's calling on you to see what it is you need in relationship and what you need moving forward. I'm trying to think of what else. Pretty much that's all of the major things that are going to be happening this year. Um, I think to see how this really impacts you in your specific chart, you can definitely reach out to me for a reading. We can definitely do that. But I also have made videos for each of the sun signs, and you can see how these events directly impact your sun sign. But we're more than just our sun signs, right? Our sun is our outer self and how we are in the world, our essence and our energy. So that's why our horoscopes are so important. Our sun is really our identity and our essence. So we look to that for our outer self, what we're here to do outwardly. But our moon sign is more about how we operate on an emotional level, our subconscious self. So to understand our needs and our emotional self better, we look to our moon sign. And so you watch that one. And then our rising sign or our ascendant, that's our birth time. That's what sets the beginning of our chart, the entire wheel of our own birth chart. And that's our personality and how we show up in the world. So it's important to see how each of those signs are going to be impacted this year, but to see how your specific birth chart is, definitely reach out for a reading. But let's say you want to learn more about astrology yourself, and you're really taking this new year of shift and change and reinvention of the belief systems and everything. You want to learn more about these things yourself. I have also created a really awesome 2026 astrology workbook, and it has an astrology 101, understanding all the terms of astrology. Then we have a more in-depth breakdown of what these astrological influences are of 2026, when they happened before, how they impact us now, moving forward. And then we go month by month and we look at the new moons, the full moons, the eclipses, these planetary events. And I have you apply that to your own chart. See how that affects your chart. Then there's journal prompts and workbook type activities to really see how that impacts you. So I have a link for that below, as well as a link to set up a reading with myself. But in general, everybody, I think 2026 is definitely set to be the year where things change. These major planetary influences, because these planets take so long to revolve around the sun. Pluto, 250 years it takes. Uranus, it takes 80 years. Neptune is 230 years. Saturn, 30 years. To have all of them making these major transitions at the same time, because they take so long, it also takes a while to see those changes happening. And that's why there's been so much upheaval out there in the collective. And now this is the year where we see where it changes, where it impacts the world of technology and information systems, the economy, all of these things, those dramatic weather patterns end, and all of these things. And we see it happening, and it's a year for real change. It's a year for truth emerging, for clarity to come. Clarity replaces that confusion. Responsibility replaces the avoidance of so many things. Expression replaces suppression. And it's not about fear, it's about empowerment through awareness. So, everybody, know that 2026 has so much in store for all of us. And I am very grateful for you watching today. Be sure to watch me throughout the rest of the year. I focus on new moons, full moons, any of these major planetary influences. I'll really get into depth then about it as well. But thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful 2026.